Welcome to Nonprofit Nerd Impact Unleashed. Get ready to dive into the world of nonprofits, where the nerdy passion and unstoppable dedication of those making a real impact is celebrated. Together with your host, Jarrett Ransom, the inspiring stories and game-changing strategies of nonprofit leaders will be explored. Join us to unravel the mysteries of successful fundraising, uncover the secrets to effective advocacy, and nerd out over innovative approaches to solving social challenges. Nonprofit Nerd Impact Unleashed is your go-to podcast for no-nonsense discussions with real-life superheroes of the nonprofit sector. Get ready to unleash your inner nerdiness and discover or rediscover how to change the world together. Now let's dive in and embrace the power of our nerdy side.
Hello there, fellow nonprofit nerds. I'm thrilled to share with you today's guest, Kirk Schmidt. Kirk has over 20 years of experience in the nonprofit sector. At different times, he served as a practitioner, consultant, and also a board member. Kirk gets personal, and I absolutely love that about him. He has helped me to better understand individuals with different brain makeups, and I truly appreciate his willingness to take his personal self into the professional realm on LinkedIn and beyond. Which, if you aren't following Kirk on LinkedIn yet, what are you waiting on? Go ahead and do that now. But before we dive into my conversation with Kirk, I want to give a shout out of gratitude to this season's podcast sponsors. Thank you to Fundraising Academy at National University, Nonprofits HQ, and Chazen & Company. Your support in these conversations are immensely appreciated. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm thrilled to have with us in conversation today, Kirk. And Kirk and I know we met in person in, where were we? It was at AFP
Las
event.
Vegas.
Was it Vegas?
It was Icon Vegas. Yeah.
It was. And as I shared with you before, I just pushed recording. You have completely transformed the way that I am able to see and work with my own son through you showing up in a very authentic, personal way. So for everyone listening, I hope that you really enjoy today's conversation. I feel honored to have this one with you, Kirk. And one of the questions I like to start off as we dive deep into these conversations, I believe that we have a lot of titles, we have a lot of roles, we wear a lot of hats, right? Like we show up in the world in a lot of different ways. So tell us, what are some of those names? What are some of those roles? What are some of those hats that you, wear, own, proud of, shove in a closet? Like, what are they?
The whole closet full of names. Yeah. From a professional standpoint, I often don't even use my proper title most of the time, and my titles seem to change randomly at different points. And so from a professional standpoint, there's kind of this I'm a fundraising operations person, I'm a fundraising analyst, I'm a mathematician, I'm all of these things. And you alluded to this already, but I am neurodivergent. I'm autistic. I'm probably ADHD as well, although that has never been officially stated. I am an actor. I am actually working towards trying to become a professional actor, and one day maybe just supplementing my income with charity stuff. But that's a big part of it. I am a father. I'm kind of all over the place. It's great. It's I have many names that I go by.
Yeah. And thank you, because for all of our listeners, I tell our guests, I myself am a complete open book, and I want to honor and respect absolutely everyone's voice and comfort level. So you went there, Kirk, and I am so, again, just so proud and so grateful. What I shared with you, before we started recording really was I've learned so much from you. And because you show up, I see you show up in a very authentic manner online, I'm going to say LinkedIn because that's where I see these posts.
Sure.
And I would like to say you've made me a better mother because you've helped me to understand in ways that I couldn't grasp previously for my own son and his genius brain and how that works as well. So thank you. Yeah. And to honor that in yourself, has that been something that you've I don't know, for your whole life have been open about, or is it something that more and more you're becoming comfortable or feeling more secure? Like, how has that evolved for you?
So I officially got my diagnosis at the age of 39. So it's really interesting to like, there's almost a level of it was so blatantly obvious that like, how did I not see this before? And
Yeah.
thinking about just some of the different like phrases that are said about autistic individuals about not ever feeling like you actually have your own personality, how you basically have to adapt and you're a bit of a chameleon. Like, these are all things I said for 30 some years and only realized in my late 30s. And so it was almost 3 years ago that I got my diagnosis.
Yeah.
So prior to that, I knew I was strange, but I didn't know how. And I like, and I kind of reveled in that being different from most people. To some degree, it was a bit of a badge of honor. But now having the diagnosis, it kind of threw a new lens on everything and went like, oh, that's why that happened. Like, oh, that's why that person was mad at me for this random thing that I said that I thought was completely innocuous, right? So it is a relatively new thing in
Yeah.
terms of my understanding of it. But there's also been this level of like, once I got the diagnosis, I was well established enough in my career. Never mind the fact that I just have the privilege of being a white, cisgendered, straight male, that I could kind of get away with talking about it publicly and knowing that it wasn't going to have any type of drastic repercussions talking about being autistic or things like that. And so there's almost a level of like, it is my duty as somebody who isn't going to suffer consequences from speaking out about it, to be able to speak out about it and to be able to talk more about what that experience is like, so that it demystifies all of it for people.
That was powerful. I want that to sink in for so many people. And for me, and thank you. I take that challenge on myself, coming from a place of privilege, middle-aged white woman, right? Where I do, similarly as you, feel that there are so many times and places that it is my duty to bring up a conversation or share from my own experiences so that hopefully I'm paving the way and creating environments and cultures that are conducive to other individuals to start to feel safe and secure in a way. But I acknowledge and appreciate you bringing up that privilege. Tim Lockey, whom I believe you know as well,
Yeah.
he's on this season's conversation and podcast, another fantastic guest. He also brings up, his privilege. And so thank you. I honor that. And it means a lot to me. I would like to ask Kirk, how has this shown up in maybe the work environment? Either you, um, managing a team, managing employees, or interacting with your supervisor. Like, how has that dynamic shown up for you? What's working for you? Where have you found resources perhaps to support you in that?
And from an interpersonal standpoint, I don't know that it affected many things kind of on a day-to-day basis like that. And there's a level of being able to talk about neurodivergence and all that. I definitely have had coworkers or people at different levels who have said like, oh, like after talking to you, I wondered if I should get tested. Like there's that piece to it, but the interpersonal relationships haven't drastically changed. I'd already kind of set up my own management style. I already knew kind of how I interacted with colleagues and people across the sector. Where it made more of a difference was understanding what uh, what needs I had that I didn't quite know I had. Why would I go to the office and end up just so exhausted and headachy by the end of the day? And so now I have an office where I have taken out all of the fluorescent lights. And so
Mhm.
I work in the dark, and I've always enjoyed working in, like, my computer has always been kind of in the basement. I always work like being with the lights off. So understanding that that's why it's a sensory issue. Um,
Mhm.
being like I'm not afraid to say wear my headphones at a conference. So like when we met each other, I had not received the official diagnosis yet. By the time that we had AFP Las Vegas, but by the time that I went to the one the following year, and I can't remember where that was now, um, Denver, no, New Orleans. Um,
Yeah.
so I started wearing my headphones around in the conference center, and I started to realize that, like, I was not getting nearly as tired in
Oh.
conferences because I there wasn't all of that sensory issue. So it's been more in terms of the accommodations that I've brought on than anything interpersonal.
That is fascinating. And with the earphones at the conference, how was that perceived? Like, how did other people interact with you? Did they take that as a signal that you're not to be, spoken to or not to interact with? I'm really curious in a social, also professional dynamic. How was that perceived by your people?
I so It's a good question. I mean, a lot of people didn't, just randomly talk to me, but I also don't feel like it was cases where people would have talked to me anyways. Like kind of as you pass random people in a conference, you don't usually just like stop somebody randomly and start talking to them. But as I went up to booths or whatever, people would like there'd kind of be that eye contact of like, oh yeah, it's okay to speak to me. um, it'd be interesting. I was on a cruise once where they had tags for, like, if you're okay to be talked to, like if you're really outgoing, or if it's okay to approach you, but like I'm not going to initiate conversation, or like don't approach me at all. And like I almost feel like when you go to conferences and it has like I'm a speaker and I'm this and I'm that, it actually would be more useful to have something almost to that effect where it's like, yes, you can talk to me, you can initiate conversation. I've just got the headphones on for my own sanity. But yeah, I didn't find it was all that, like, people would come up and talk to me, but they'd make eye contact first, like they wouldn't come at me from behind or anything like that. So it didn't hamper it all that much.
Oh, good. I'm really glad to hear that. And I know exactly what you're talking about with those like speaker badges and then the ribbons that go, under there. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I'm really curious about your go-tos, if you will, when it comes to relaxation, when you are maybe overstimulated or you're thinking, okay, I am overworked, like there's a lot on my plate. I'm really feeling, tired or whatever that looks like for you. What are some self-care as well as relaxation go-tos that you pull for yourself?
It's a wide variety. So and this is going to sound almost strange. Like I can go from like if I'm really overstimulated, exhausted, the place you will probably find me is under blankets. And it will probably be like doom scrolling on my phone. And it's just like I require a single point of focus, which is the phone. But everything else, like I am warm, I'm under blankets, so there's no light
Yeah.
whatsoever. There's that. But on the other side, sometimes what I require is almost overstimulation. So there will be meetings that I have to attend where I absolutely need to be paying attention, but I probably won't be contributing much. And when I'm in some meetings like that, sometimes what I actually have to do is I have to play a video game. And
Mhm.
what it is and it's not that I'm paying attention to the video game. And in fact, if anything, it's more like I'll do some like I play a lot of Rocket League, which is car soccer. And so I won't actually be doing anything that requires that brain power. It's more of that rote natural, just kind of fiddling with something, or like I'll fiddle with like little my little things. Um, but like I require some level of stimulation, and I actually pay better attention in some meetings, if it's the right type of meeting and I'm in the right space, when I'm actually playing a video game than when I'm not, which sounds weird. So sometimes it's I'm understimulated and I need something else to just occupy a part of my brain, and sometimes it is absolutely a like shut the world down, go under a blanket, and sometimes that will be half a day.
Right. Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that and totally understand the video games, the doom scrolling, like having that focus. I started integrating tactical tools, almost like fidget items, when I facilitate retreats, right? So there's Play-Doh, there's Post-it notes, there's pens, there's markers, there's pipe cleaners, there's different things, because I find myself very similarly. Well, here's an example. When I took the standardized testing when I was in high school, I found myself bored and drawing instead of like answering the questions with the bubble. I was like, I think I'll draw a Christmas tree with this bubble sheet. Like my score was horrific. It definitely didn't get me into Harvard. Guaranteed that wasn't my goal, but I drew a damn good Christmas tree, right? So I really find myself, like, even for me, looking at, okay, what tools can I bring? Because I also want to empower others. If they want to stand up and they want to walk around, or they want to sit on the ground, or they need to have, a different experience than what the person next to them is having, I want to honor that. And it doesn't, for me, always mean that I understand what they're doing. I don't have to understand, right? Like for me, I find it important to create a space that's secure for anyone to have the ultimate end goal of whatever we're wanting to do, but for their experience, right? Like however they need to get through an 8-hour board retreat, have at it.
Yeah. And being able to stand up in meetings, which I've been doing since early on, um, I will often be with my camera off, because like if you were to actually watch the camera, I'd be randomly laying on the floor or pacing around the room, or
Yeah.
bouncing a ball. Like it is, sometimes it's distracting for others, and so that's why I often will try not to do that too much in-person meetings, or
Yeah.
I'll try to find a place where like I'm not in visual range. So I'll
Mhm.
go pace in the back of the room or something like that. But
Okay.
absolutely, um, yeah, we'll take every opportunity I can to get something else moving while we're in a
Right.
meeting.
Good. What about what do you do? Do you take vacations, like just overall as part of your year? Because you do a lot, and I talk a lot about a work-life blend as opposed to a balance, because I don't know, like now with technology so connected to us in so many different formats, like how does anyone really turn off at a certain time of the day? Even my brain still thinks of certain things. So I'm curious, right? Like, how do you manage your well-being through things like vacations or long weekends, or maybe just, skipping for a long lunch? What does that look like?
So first of all, prior to COVID, I consulted for years, and I had to get really good at knowing when to turn off the computer, not respond to emails, all of that. So I built in that practice very early on. So by the time COVID hit, it was like, you'd have coworkers that would be working 4, 5, 6 because there's no commute home, and I'd be like, nope, 4 o'clock done, see ya. Um, and so I really do try to hold to a level of, once it is the end of my day, unless there is a really good reason for doing something, the rare occasion, you will not see me online. Um, so there's that piece. And I've set all of my devices so that, for example, Teams won't message me past a certain time. And so unless I intentionally go in and look at it, I won't get that message until the next morning, and that's great. Um, so there's that piece that I maintain that barrier. Um, the and I do take my vacation. In fact, I quite often operate from a position of I usually owe whatever place I'm at time. I'm usually in some sort of negative balance, and I would actually much rather that. I would much rather if I had to leave an organization and it was like, yeah, like you've taken more vacation days than you should have. Like, well then like dock my last pay. Great. Like then I've done what I intend to do. And I do like taking a lot of vacation. Um, and then the other is just, having my side projects, having things that like if I need to just take a few moments and think about something else, I've got, a million different spreadsheets of a million different things that I'm doing on the side, and it'll be like sit in that spreadsheet for 20 minutes and then go back to work. So there's enough distraction that I can get away, but it does start with that very disciplined, like, do not overwork. Because I used to be a workaholic and I used to work nights and weekends, and it was like this is the way to get ahead, and it's not.
Right. Right. Yeah, that hustle and grind. I feel like that's what I was taught, and having another conversation with a guest for this season. And it was like, I was really raised in this. You have to work hard to be successful. And I don't want to work hard, right? Like that doesn't really resonate with me anymore. So do you, for your vacations, I love that you operate at a negative balance. It's like that is not something I hear often, right? I usually hear, I haven't taken a vacation in 3 years, that kind of thing. So when is your next vacation? What does that look like? What's on the calendar
Uh,
for you?
Tomorrow. uh, I yeah. So go. I go leave for an Alaska cruise tomorrow. Um, and the last vacation I was on was in June, and I've got something
Nice.
booked for December and
Yeah.
March. And
That's fantastic. So just for our listeners, today is August 7th. So we're recording this on August the 7th. Kirk, took a vacation in June, leaving tomorrow, August 8th for Alaska. Have an amazing trip. I cannot wait to see photos. I hope you will share them, and to see more about that. I would love to know too, for everyone who's listening and, thinking, maybe I see a lot of myself or hear a lot of myself in you, Kirk, or I would love, to just follow you, learn more about what you're up to. Tell us a little bit about your work life and where we can also find more about you.
I exist on LinkedIn. And that's almost the only social media platform outside of like very personal stuff that exists. So that's the place to find me. That's where I will always be. I try to post every day. Reasonably, it's probably every 2 days. Um, but luckily my name's unique enough that there are a few Kirk Schmidts, but there's not many. And I'm pretty sure I'm the only one in the charitable sector that I know of. So it
Right.
should be pretty easy to find.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I love seeing your post on LinkedIn. I think I've got you set for someone that, like, as soon as you post, it tells me that you've made a post so that I can, learn more about you and learn more about my own child. As we wrap up, is there any final words of wisdom or advice that you'd like to leave with our listeners today? Before you leave for Alaska?
Yeah, my brain's half checked out already. Um, I think just something that triggered in my head when we were talking about kind of that working hard versus like the hustle culture and that. One of the things I learned, I spent years in restaurants in my early days. And one of the things I learned very quickly is that like it doesn't matter how high up you are in the kitchen, you know, at some point you need to pick up a broom and you need to sweep up, or you need to polish the stainless steel and that. And thinking about like the type of people that I respect in the sector, and the type of work that I respect in that, it's actually less of the staying home and like sorry, staying at work and like working, extra hours than that. I would rather my staff go home, and I would rather send them home early on a long weekend, and rather do all of those things. But if they're the type of people who will pick up the broom every so often, and like there's no job beneath them, that they will kind of pick things up. That has always been the thing that has earned the most respect from me. And I feel like that's the case in most of the sector. As much as we talk about and people talk about hustle all the time, I think it's really that ability to just, yeah, I can do kind of the hard random things here and there. And I feel like that has gotten me farther in my career than any type of overworking. Like and I think you actually work better when you relax properly and when you take proper time off and you take care of yourself.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That is fantastic advice. I am so glad that that is something that's going into all of our listeners' ears, because for any of you that were also raised in that culture that you have to work hard to, climb this corporate ladder, there's a new way to think about that. So Kirk, thank you again for sharing, for being you, for being so open and vulnerable in our conversation. The whole point of these conversations really are to shed light on how we as nonprofit professionals can be of service to others and to our community as well as ourselves by finding some resources and support through, personal wellness and awareness. So again, thank you. I'm just honored to have you here, and again, love following you, and have fun in Alaska.
Thanks.